Always do it on my own, so I gotta get through it. And the only thing I know is to love what I'm doing. Never give up, never slow, till I finally prove it. Never listen to the no's, I just wanna keep moving. Keep my head up when I act, head up, that's a fact. Never looking back, I'ma keep myself on track. Keep my head up, staying strong, always moving on. Feel I don't belong, tell my thoughts to move along. Push myself to be the best, die with no regrets. Live with every breath, see my message start to spread. And I had so many dreams, then you hit your teens. Life ain't really what it seems, try to find out what it means. Always do it on my own, so I gotta get through it. And the only thing I know is to love what I'm doing. Never give up, never slow, till I finally prove it. Never listen to the no's, I just wanna keep moving. Yeah, I put out all this art, it's my only medicine. Yeah, everything I do, I'm just being genuine. Yeah, I'm sick of being screwed, feel my own adrenaline. Yeah, I do just what I do, and I hope you let me in, yeah. I'm grateful, oh yeah, able, oh yeah, I'm stable, oh yeah, no label, oh yeah, you know me, I have only a path, I'm lonely, but damn, I'm going to win. I don't want no fake love, I want the real stuff. Everybody listen up, cause I'll only say it once. I'm gonna show you all the path, if you want it bad. I'm gonna show you where it's at, yeah, how you can get it back. Yeah, cause I ain't never done, I'll be number one. Working hella hard until I get just what I want, yeah. Rises like the sun, yeah, fatal like a gun. Shooter's gonna shoot and I'm gonna shoot until I won, yeah. Always do it on my own, so I gotta get through it. And the only thing I know is to love what I'm doing. Never give up, never slow, till I finally prove it. Never listen to the no's, I just wanna keep moving. Yeah, I put out all this art, it's my only medicine. Yeah, everything I do, I'm just being genuine. Yeah, I'm sick of being screwed, feel my own adrenaline. Yeah, I do just what I do, and I hope you let me in, yeah. Grateful, oh yeah, able, oh yeah, I'm stable, oh yeah, no label, oh yeah, you know me, I have only a path, I'm lonely, but damn, I'm going to win, yeah.
Hey everybody, welcome. I didn't want that in there for now. How is everybody? Happy Friday, thank goodness. Hey JLL, oh, I appreciate that. I miss you guys a lot too. Helen Highwater, Bash as always. Lisa Sinner. Yes, it is Friday. JLL, you're so sweet. And yes, I apologize for the time change, but you know how I am. I had thought 8 and then I did 7:30. I didn't leave the room with the mama cats until 7:25 and I still needed to eat, so I made it for 8. Hey Turtle, Thunder, Lurker, Cool Gamer, Wine Crime and Mayhem, Diane, Tonka Girl, hey Cocoa Puff. Oh, thought I'd miss it. Thought I was going to miss it while at work. Hey Patricia, long time. So I just happened to see that the Maui Police Department and the FBI were holding a press conference, an update on the number of unaccounted for in the catastrophic fires of Maui that took place back in August. And I am planning on doing a live tomorrow on the flooding And let me back up. The earthquake in Morocco and also the flooding in Libya, which as soon as I saw it, I knew I wanted to do a live on it, but as you know, the week is busy. And I looked at an update today, and there are at least 11,600 individuals who have perished from that flooding, and there are over 10,000 individuals still missing, which is unfathomable. I can't even say that word. Unfathomable. There we go. Unfathomable. So I am planning on doing a live on that tomorrow. I don't know what time, but I did see, I think it was Turtle said they were looking forward to sleeping in tomorrow. Me too. Although, now that I don't have to get up, I will be up at the crack of dawn. So, but yes, I'm very happy it's Friday. Today was a very rough day at work. I don't know what was in the water today, but it got the kids a little rowdy, so to speak. It was, oh, and hey, Rowdy, I just saw your name when I was saying the kids were getting rowdy. And that's putting it nicely. It was, by the end of the day, we were talking about the adult beverages we were going to make once we got home. So I actually did make a Jack and Coke because I had leftover soda from work, and I was like, okay, perfect timing. It's 8:00. I ate my dinner, so I've got a nice glass of Jack and Coke. So we are going to get started. This press conference is about 40 minutes long, and it's really good, but I forgot how strong it is. So the first sip was like, ooh, that's strong. But sometimes I kind of go overboard on the amount of Jack. But yes, it's my favorite. I have every single kind of Jack Daniels in my freezer. My favorite is the Jack Honey, but I also like the Jack Fire. That one is just like really good. But anyways, yeah, I haven't had a drink in a really long time. Probably, I don't even know when. Maybe Christmas last year. I feel like that was probably the last time. I don't remember the last time, so that tells you how long. But we all deserve one today, at least those who I work with, because Claire. Well, it could be, but I actually, now I'm thinking, I was saying the honey was my favorite, but I think Winter Jack is. I don't know. I went with just the like plain Jack Daniels today. I wasn't feeling bougie or fancy. And so I have the Coke Zero and the Jack. Yes. Hey, Ariana's mama. Jack and Coke makes me think of Captain Jack Sparrow. Oh, it does a little bit. Oh, Turtle, they were extra rowdy too. Were you told some really nasty things by your students? I mean, the nicest thing I was told today was that I was dumb. And I said, thank you. I appreciate that. Yes, that was the nicest thing that was told to me today. Hey, Spitfire. Let's see who else I missed. I wasn't really looking at chat. Diane. Yes, Winter Jack. That one's really good. And I'm sure there's probably newer ones. Like, I haven't been shopping for alcohol in a while because my freezer is full of it. But the one drink from college that we used to do, and it is so freaking good. So you go to McDonald's, you get a strawberry milkshake. You drink some of it, right? You just drink some of it. So there's a little, like an inch space or so. And then you go buy some tequila rose. And you pour that in your milkshake and stir it up. So good. So good. I don't think I've had tequila rose since college. So that's a long time ago. Oh my gosh, really, Cocoa Puff? I have a plot of land at the JD Distillery. Oh my gosh, I'm a little jealous. Hey, Beer Can, how are you feeling? Petunia. Shauna. I think I said hi, Shauna, but if not, hello again. Yes, the honey is so good too. It's all good. Usually when I get home, I'm too tired. So tequila rose, I mean, it's tequila, but hold on, I'm going to look it up. I'm guessing they still make it. I mean, it was in the late 90s, but yes, it's strawberry cream liqueur. Yes, I'm the legal drinking age. So it is called Tequila Rose. It's combining tequila with strawberry cream. The first drink of its kind to pair cream with anything other than Irish whiskey. Over 20 years later, Tequila Rose remains the world's best-selling strawberry cream liqueur and was the inspiration that paved the way for the unique cream liqueurs that have followed. So it's 2023. I went to college in 96. That's almost 30 years. But anyways, it's really good. If you haven't tried it, I would suggest it. And I would suggest mixing it with a McDonald's strawberry milkshake if you're lucky, because their milkshake machine seems to always be broken. So, yes, like Bailey's, but strawberry. Yeah. Thank you, Jima. I'm a math teacher, and I couldn't even do the math. So, thank you. Oh my gosh, 27 years ago. It doesn't seem like that long. I graduated in 2000. So yeah, 23 years ago. Almost 24. That's crazy for me. All right. So this press conference, like I said, I just came upon it by accident. And so I said, you know what? I haven't really done an update on Maui. I did look through the updates on County of Maui website, and there are 5 individuals who remain unidentified. So of those remains found, there are 5 remaining that have not been identified, which I find really sad that they're still waiting for loved ones to find them. And it makes me think maybe they don't have any loved ones to find them, which makes it even more sad. Hey, hippie. Yes, Petunia, I did. I was in there. Yep, I was in there. I was only half paying attention though. So I have to rewatch. I have a lot of catching up to do on lives from lots of creators. I don't know how far I'm going to get, but you get a tropical smoothie drink a little and add some Bacardi. I can't do rum. And I don't know what it is, but, and actually Bacardi might be okay, but Malibu, I don't know if it's how they make Malibu, but I get severely ill from it. She did one Crime and Mayhem. It was about 5 minutes long. Yep. Constantly rolling your eyes. Yes. All right. So I have not watched this press conference, so I'm going to be watching it. Oh, beer can. Does that even taste good? Ugh. I mean, I guess it would make it a little more smooth, but ugh. Ugh. Yeah, I hate beer. Ugh. The only beer, like, and this is going back to college, but I could only drink beer when I couldn't taste anything anymore, and it could only be Coors Light. Petunia. I know. I hope he's hello, free Brian Koberger. Yeah, beer. Ugh, I can't do it. Wine. Ugh. Nope. Nope. All right. All right, so let's get this started. And then you know what? We'll see. At the end, maybe we can continue this conversation. All right. And that was my fault. I opened a whole bottle of whiskey with my comment. Beer can, now you're just making stuff up. There's no way that you drink beer with tomato juice. I did not see that Lisa fell today. I did hear her say that her shoulder was hurting, but I didn't know why, because by the time I got home from work, she was just leaving the panel, and she had said that her shoulder was achy. That's called a red eye? Seriously? That's a thing? What? I have never heard that before in my life. Wow. Okay. Oh no, she fell in her hallway. That's terrible. Red beer. Maybe it would make beer taste better, because beer does taste pretty gross. Oh, very popular in Arizona. Oh my gosh. That is so interesting. All right, so I'm going to start this, and I will be looking at chat on my phone. And I apologize. I thought, too, that because the press conference would be over by the time I went live, that there would be closed captioning. Unfortunately, there is not. And let me just make sure the volume is up a little bit.
Aloha. Welcome to MPD headquarters. It's important that we take some time to brief you with some developments.
God, that's really low.
I'd like to begin, as I have since this began, and mention what.
Is that volume okay for y'all? Like, I feel like it's super low. If you guys can hear it okay, then. But if not, I'll try to. Yeah, very low. And I don't want me to be super loud.
We need is patience. We continually need your prayers, and we need to persevere through this. We created a process 4 weeks ago, and we talked.
Is that a little bit better? Yeah, I don't have earbuds, and I mean, I have it. I don't want to even talk loud because I have it on 72. Oh, it is better. Am I too loud? I'm making sure I don't talk normal. I'm talking lower. Okay. A little better. Okay, I'm going to turn my computer up to a little bit more, and I'll just make sure that I don't get too animated. Blast it. Okay.
About trusting the process. And so for those that don't understand what we meant by that, it was the process referenced the unaccounted, and to get us to a point that we would understand the size and scope of the situation we were in. We had a whole bunch of data sources that poured in, and we had well over 3,000 names that came in from a variety of places. And over the past 4 weeks, with thousands of hours from the FBI as well as our task force at the Mint, we've been able to reduce it from 388, 385 to 66 to now 31. And what's important about the 31 and why this is key is every single one of those names has an MPD missing person report associated with it. Because of the MPD reports, yesterday we recovered 2 additional individuals because we had actionable intelligence in a police report. As we brief out, I'm going to let you know the numbers of 115 has changed, and I'm going to have the medical science and the forensics explain why that is. What's extremely important is that we have identified 74 individuals, and we have another 31 on our list. The process moving forward will be on Fridays, depending on give or take if there's a holiday or there's a factor, but toward the end of the week, MPD will be releasing the list moving forward with the names like we have for the foreseeable future. If you have a loved one that is missing because of the fire event, and I stress that because it's for the fire event. We'll continue to take missing persons reports for other things, but for the fire event, please, we'll have the information available. We need you to do the MPD report. The number that we're using moving forward right now is we have 97, not 115, and they will explain why that is. We don't just have a couple of folks that are here today that have been working on this. I think it's really important that folks understand this. So the medical examiner that MPD hired, and we were going to get him this month, but Dr. Jeremy Stoopnagel, when he came to us, he came with more experience than even I knew at the time, but he worked on 9/11 cases in New York for the time he was there. They're still doing cases. They just identified 2 more people, and he worked there for over 10 years. And so we're using reports from New York City that were used. We're contacting from Pennsylvania when Flight 93 went down. We're looking at all the data points we can to make this the best, most concrete investigation and process we have. And so Dr. John Bird, he's in charge.
Sorry, y'all. They just fixed the microphones, apparently. Jeez.
For the federal government in recovering with anthropology and science, POWs and MIAs that this nation's lost. And he's the one that helps bring closure to those families. And so we have the best experts in the world working on this, which is why, if you think about it, 5.5 weeks later, we've identified 74 individuals. We've got DNA profiles on 95 individuals. And we are constantly striving to make sure that we do this to the best of our ability. Doctor?
Thank you. No, thank you for receiving us today. We are continually working. So far, of the people that have come through our office, we have 96 discrete human remains. We've done approximately 199 different recoveries, with the understanding that many of the people who are coming through our office, because of the fire, because of the heat, because of the situation of this being a mass disaster, many of them are down to the bones. Some are fragmented. Many of them have required secondary and even tertiary recoveries. We've worked to reunify people, to have them as whole as they're going to be, to make sure their remains are whole when they go to their families. We're also working with some people who have come together, and to separate those two people out and make sure that each family member has unaccountable human remain being able to be delivered to them at that time. We're working with our anthropology colleagues to reunify these remains and make sure we have who we think we have, and they're as complete as they can be. We've also been doing, as Chief said, working with DNA. We've had dental experts, a whole team of dentists looking for DNA and dental comparisons. We're even looking at surgical hardware, pacemaker serial numbers. We're trying every single modality we have to make sure that we identify these people. It does take a lot of time. This is a mass disaster. Many of the people who have come to us, you would think it would be something straightforward, but people seeking shelter have gone into other people's homes. They're in different cars, they're in different places, they're in places they're not supposed to be. So with the help of our FBI agents and leads and the help of the community, we've been able to track down addresses and people and find where they are, where they should be or could be. We're doing everything that we can to make sure that we have these folks as complete as possible and to strive forward and bring closure to the community. Thank you for having us here, and thank you for receiving our information.
Hi, I'm John Bird. I'm with the Department of Defense, and we're here through FEMA to support Chief Pelletier and Dr. Stupnagel through this process, as long as it takes to get a satisfactory conclusion to the work. We've been doing search and recovery operations down in Lahaina for about a month now. You may recall we had in a lot of teams with dogs, and we went through a lot of different types of searches. We're kind of the final type of search. We go through very carefully, kind of the fine-tooth comb approach, and we've been ensuring that where we do find remains, that all of the remains get recovered and brought to the forensic center so that they'll go home to their family. We've also...
Hey, JLL, yes, it was today. I'm sorry, I don't remember if I said that, but yes, it was today. And I actually didn't know it was happening. I found it by accident, and I didn't realize it had to do with Maui because all I saw was MPD FBI hold press conference with updates. So I just assumed like maybe it was something else, like something not related to Maui. But when I clicked on it, I saw the description. I was like, oh my gosh, it's about Maui. So yes.
Been following leads that come from those missing person reports that the chief talked about. And the information in the missing persons reports has been used by us to go out back down to Lahaina and search specific locations to try to find the remains of the persons that are believed to be still there. And we've had a fair bit of success with that. And so those missing persons reports are extremely important for us to reach finality on these searches for our missing persons. We're very honored and pleased to be here to help the people of Maui. Most of us are from Oahu. We've been based in Oahu for decades. So Hawaii is home to us as well, even though we're a federal organization. And we hope that we can help as much as possible and bring this to a successful close. Thank you.
Now we're going to open it up for questions. I think we're going to do 2 each. But before we do that, I think what's really important and what's really key, we talked about doing it fast or doing it right. We have to do it right. And I think with what we're seeing right now, for the first time, we have a clear picture of what we have. And if you think about the 74 identified, and then the 31 current reports at 5.5 weeks, it kind of gives you an idea with the number that we're also talking about, 97. I'm not giving you exactly where we're at when this is all done. I can't do that, but I think for the first time, we now have a clearer picture of what exactly this is. There's been a lot of different information that's gone out there. We had our own senator on the Senate floor talking about misinformation and other actors and people doing some things for nefarious reasons. But we have an obligation. We have an obligation to our community to make sure we do this right by them. And just think about this. And here's what the most important part is. For the very first time we discussed today, for the very first time, we legitimately have a chance. We legitimately have a chance to identify every single person we lost and to reunite them with their family. And so in the midst of all this tragedy, there's a little ray of hope right there. And so that really is incredible. It really is amazing. So I know that my PIO, Alana, is going to help with the questions.
Wendy Osher.
Patricia, thank you so much for gifting a membership in Spitfire. Congratulations. Welcome to the Stoners. And no, not that kind of stoner.
Pacific Media Group in Maui now. I just wanted clarification on the 115 number. Has that dropped down to 97, and what happened to those 18 that were initially counted?
Okay, so the question is what happened to the number of 115 dropping down, and as far as those 18 being unaccounted for now? Dr. J?
Yeah, I can help with that. Now, this is actually a really good question. With the way the remains have come to us, you know, many of these people are, like I mentioned, in a situation with their bones and their fragments, and they have had secondary recoveries and additional recoveries. So I'll give an example. So let's say we have someone who gets a DNA profile, and we get a DNA profile for an adult man. And then we have anthropology working, and we find remains of an adult man. That may be counted initially as 2 people, but as we find out that the DNA profile matches the bones we have, it consolidates to 1. So we've had a lot of consolidation of the cases in that kind of situation.
A clarification and
Yes.
a question. Thank you,
Yes.
Jane, for the 97. A slide said something about 95, and you said 96. Can you clear up what those different 90s mean?
Yeah, so the 95 are the DNA profiles. However, even those we're combing through and making sure they're not duplicates. At the moment, we believe the 95 are 95 distinct DNA profiles for distinct human beings. But we are going to continue to comb through this data and recomb and recomb and recomb. This morning, we combed through the data 3 more times before we met with you. It's a fluid number. All of these numbers are fluid, but we're getting you the very best data we have in this moment in time.
Thank you for that clarification.
You're welcome.
And then my question would be, how many parents have submitted on behalf of children? How many minors are on the list? Can you give us a sense of any minors?
Okay, so the question is how many minors we have on the official unaccounted for list, correct?
Or among the DNA, if you know that the DNA is a child.
I don't have a specific number. I haven't looked at that specific number. I know we have a few minors, but I haven't looked at that specific number. I don't have one for you at this time.
Among DNA. And then on
I don't have it.
list, is there, or a missing list?
So on the unidentified, I know we for sure have one.
I know we have a few.
I know that we've made some notifications. And then we also have some that we have not yet made some notifications on. So we're still going through that, but we're going to release the list. And if there's an M minor on it, so you'll have that today, and it'll be very clear on the open cases specifically. Every name will have, and then instead of the asterisk, because there's no longer an FBI report with an MPD, they're all MPD reports, we've designated the M. Okay.
And the numbers seem to be at this point sort of gelling between DNA and missing.
Correct. And so the number 95 referred to the DNA. 96 of the 97 were processed in part through the Mint or the morgue here. And we had one death that we know was related to the fire that passed away on Oahu. So that's why that's the difference in those.
And I will say, based on a list that has been like an unofficial people finder, I counted 2 minors on the list. One was a 7-year-old and another was a 14-year-old. The remainder who have been identified are not minors.
What's a DNA profile and a DNA sample exactly?
Okay, so the question is, what's the difference between a DNA profile and a DNA sample, correct?
A DNA sample is just a generic term for a sample of DNA, and a profile would be a specific sequence or allele sequence of DNA that matches that particular person or that particular person's family.
Star Advertiser.
Hi, Christy Wilson, I'm a Star Advertiser. And the person, just a clarification, the person you mentioned on all, that's Kirk Carter. And his name hasn't been released, but he's the one who died at the Burns drop unit.
So I'm not going to release any names that that I have to let other people release the names.
Okay, but they did. The Honolulu Examiner released his name like a month ago. So I'm not trying to figure out, is he included in the total that we've been using, or is he not?
Okay, so the question is to clarify if a Mr. Kirk Carter,
A man, you referred to a man who died on Oahu.
was the one that Dr.
Are we
Jeremy.
including him in the total now? Or?
Okay, so you're just asking if that individual, which the Honolulu Medical Examiner's Office released, is being tallied into our count, correct?
Right.
Okay.
So that is the name, but just hear me out on this, and this is why this is important. There was a family that had gone to the media and said that our loved one had passed away. We just this week were able to confirm that, although that story came out 4 weeks ago. I don't want to be in a rush, and if a different medical examiner made some pronunciations, we have to be careful. But I'm not saying on this particular one, I'm just saying as we move forward, we got to be really cognizant.
And for those of you who may not know, the question was about Kirk Carter, who was severely burned in the fires, and he was airlifted to a hospital on the mainland, or the main island, Hawaii. And he did pass from his injuries. So as far as I can see, based on the list that law enforcement has released, he is not being counted as those accounted for, because he, in my opinion, he wasn't, how do I say this without being brass? He survived the fire initially. However, based on his injuries, he did not.
Just because somebody says somebody is somebody, or just because they say they're related, we have to do our due diligence. And so we're trying to be as thorough as we can. And hence some of the time it takes, because you've got one chance to get a notification right. And
But is he included in the total again?
Ma'am, I thought I'm pretty sure I said yes. I'm pretty sure I said that. Did?
There was never a clarification.
Okay.
Because we haven't released his name yet. But
And the other individual that he was referring to that they weren't able to confirm identity of was Quiero Fuentes, who his family, he was a 14-year-old who was at home, and his family did state that he was found at home. And again, law enforcement just confirmed that it was Quiero on the 13th of September.
Chelsea.
Just piggybacking on Gina's question, because there's been limited information and obviously I understand to protect the integrity of the investigation, but there's been theories going around, you know, specifically with the children because school was canceled that day because of the winds. And so people have been asking us concerns about
Hey, Denise.
children. Did the parents get there in time? Did the children get out? But if we're going off of the victims list, I think we do see the 7-year-old and then the 14-year-old, and then off that unaccounted for list, there is that M next to 1. So is it safe or accurate to say that there are 3 children out of the lost loved ones, the victims, and the accounted for, or is that number expected to rise?
Okay, that was a really long-winded
Yeah, I know.
question. So basically, to summarize, you're asking if the correct count for minors as of now is 3, correct? Okay.
So there's a couple points in that. And so let me answer the question, because I think there's also an underlying question that's in there. And that's this misinformation. That's whether it's the sabotage, whether it's some of the false reporting. And let's really, and what I mean by that, and just hear me out. I see you shaking your head. Hear me? No. Okay. Oh, okay. And so we've cleared out 3,200 names. We've cleared out 99%. Now, there's some legitimacy in those, which is the 1%, the 31 that we've got. 99% we've been able to mitigate, find them as accounted. And so when we were talking about horrible misinformation of hundreds of bodies that did not happen washing on shore or different things like that, it didn't happen. We have paid actors, some of them from other governments, as the senator talked about. Folks that believe that the earth is flat and the Holocaust didn't happen, trying to create disinformation. I think the facts speak for themselves for the very first time of what is the size and scope. And so I can't get and give you the official number when this is all said and done. But if you at 5.5 weeks haven't reported the person missing, it's probably not legitimate. And so moving from this day on, the only numbers we will count as unaccounted for will have an MPD, missing persons report, for this. And therein lies the clarity. And so we're only going to give the names when we release them if they're a minor, and we've got that. And we're only going to release the M on the unaccounted for list as we do. And even if we know that there may be some that we suspect to be juvenile, please understand, I have to be cognizant that we've only identified 74, and some of those we haven't made the official notifications on. And so I'm trying to make sure that we go with some humanity on some of this in case somebody's expecting some of that news. And so
I agree, generally, Jenny. I agree. And Spitfire, serious question. What's the best bolt or screw to hold a shed together? That is a question I cannot answer, but I'm hopeful that someone in chat will be able to answer that. And be real, I agree. Conspiracy theories bring more content, but I pride myself on facts and not following, those TikTok rabbit holes that we seem to get caught up in.
I'll just refer to those as the official counts for the minors at this point. But we know now what the 74 plus that 31 right now is the scope of where we're at. We could get other reports in, but not to what has been misrepresented. And again, 99%. That is huge. You want to talk about a story, the fact that we're able to do that is incredible. And so the work that went into that to help diffuse that.
Hi, I'm Jennifer with the Associated Press. I just want to be are the same amount or the same people who are on the list of folks that there are missing persons reports for, correct? So the missing unaccounted for number stands at 31, the number of dead stands at 97, and we're not expecting that number the 97 number to change very much.
Okay, so just to, you guys are asking some really long-winded questions. Okay, so to summarize, we want to know if 97 is the official count down from 115, and if the 31 is the unaccounted for, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
One of the things I want to emphasize, and this would really be true for both of the numbers, the 97 referring to our current estimate of the minimum number of individual remains that we're working on over in the forensic center. Now, I say it's an estimate because it may change as we do more work, as we do more refined work. We still have DNA samples that are being tested. When those results come in, you may find you have another person that you didn't realize you had before. And so 97, take it as an at least, and understand that that number is subject to change as the work is being done very aggressively. And people are working 7 days a week in the forensic center on these cases. We've got a lot of really good people doing this work. The DNA testing is ongoing 7 days a week. So these are based on the results. The chief's giving you the best numbers we have at the moment based on a lot of good work that's been done. You know, the 31, you know, what we've experienced doing search and recovery is that as the list get more scrutiny and as more time goes on, more and more people have been found to be alive who had been on the list previously. And so that's one of the reasons it's so important to get it down to where a police report has been filed by a person knowledgeable of the other person. And the better the information in the police report, the more likely it is that that number is accurate, that this really is an unaccounted for person from the fire incident. But as the information is less certain, then that makes the list a little bit less certain. And so, you know, what I would say is that we're giving you the best numbers that we have based on a lot of really hard work.
And on a side note, I really, really liked your video, Blank Screen, the one that I think you posted it yesterday. It was really, really cool.
And there's been a lot of really hard work in developing that missing persons or unaccounted for list. And there's been a lot of hard work happening with the identification efforts in the forensic center. But despite lots of smart people doing a lot of hard work, there's not perfect certainty on a day like today. But we hope that in the near future, we will actually achieve that perfect certainty as we, you know, are able to conclude the work.
The 25 that were dropped from the unaccounted list, sorry, that means they were all found safe, or the 25 people that, you know, are no longer on the list?
So the question is the 25 people that are no longer on the list, you're asking if they were found safe.
So if they were dropped from the 388 or if they were dropped from...
No, Blank Screen. The one of, it was just of the Blank Screen, and it announced that there's going to be a live stream on the 23rd.
From the 3,200, they were found safe. There may be a couple that we have accounted for, but realize when I say that they're accounted for, we know where they're at, but we haven't had a chance to notify a family member. So we didn't want to be cruel, and that's the list of unaccounted is the 31. I'm sorry, yeah, it's the 31. And so
That could include some of the deceased.
the list of the 31 is unaccounted for. So if we know who they are and we've recovered them and we've identified them, they are in fact accounted for.
Maui now.
I know in past criminal investigations, I don't know how far the legal system is going to go with any of the lawsuits, but in past criminal investigations, the remains have been kept in evidence. Do you plan on returning the remains to family members, and how long will that process be?
Okay, so the question is, with previous criminal investigations, remains are held as evidence. So in this case, is that being treated as such? And if not, when will the remains be delivered to their loved ones, correct?
No, we're not planning on holding remains for criminal need. So there's no criminal need for us to hold the remains. So once they've been identified and their remains are as whole as we're going to have them, and the family's been notified, then they can select a funeral home and the
Oh, yes. I did see that someone was live for that long.
remains can be delivered to them.
I'm just going to follow up on that.
Yeah.
We've got over 50, I believe, that we've already released to the family. There's the mortuaries that are here have taken some of them. Wendy, I actually really do appreciate the question. I think it's a really good question. I think it's very important that people understand this, though. This is not a crime. This is a natural disaster. This is a natural disaster, and that the law enforcement role is in some ways a secondary or even a further down the road role, but because of the investigation and the missing persons component, as well as the coroner's office, MPD has a role, but there's no reason to hold these because there has been no crime committed. These are victims of a horrific fire.
Doctor, can you help us understand more about the overlay of the DNA profiles?
So, wishful thinking, they did say how many they were able to account for. I don't remember. I know it was like in the high 2000s, but currently they have unaccounted for is down to 31. As they were asking questions, I was looking at the People Finder, which was like the unofficial locator list of people who filled out a Google form. And as of now, that list, and again, I can't see when it was last edited, but that list still has 242 people on it as missing or not located. But again, a lot of that information isn't complete. Some of the people, it's just first names. I'm thinking possibly, for example, one of them says Greg, Library Park, Keith, white bus with the pit bull. So possibly, as someone had said earlier, homeless, there were a lot of homeless in that area. So possibly those people may not be reported missing. And that's where I believe, in my opinion, the unaccounted for is coming in. Hey, Kathy. Hey, Tazzy.
Versus the DNA samples, it would appear that you need about 21 samples to eventually match your profiles. Is that right? You have 21 or so profiles without a claimant.
Okay, so the question is, how do you go from it being a sample to an actual?
I guess I'm asking, where are we at now with how many of your profiles still need a live claimant or a live sample to come forward for them?
Okay, so to summarize, how does a DNA sample become a DNA profile become a DNA sample?
I think they're two different things.
No.
The profile comes from the deceased, the sample comes from the living, so that you can make the match.
Yeah. Okay.
And yeah, so if you could explain, how many more people do you need to come forward from your missing list? How many samples do you have from the living who are saying, I have a missing person, 31 people, I have a missing person. But one slide said you have 12 samples, so do you need a couple dozen more people to come forward with samples. On the other hand, for the deceased, will you eventually, if there's a profile that eventually someday has no claimant, has no sample, will you through a public database, are there 23andMe's? Is there some other kind of thing you can try to find them a match somewhere, somehow?
I'm not gonna lie, I don't even know how to summarize that, Gina. So as long as Dr. J understood it, I'm gonna let him answer that. You guys are killing me.
So let's see if I can go through this. Okay, so we have, as I remember, about 90 DNA samples, 95, somewhere in there. Some of them do not have family reference samples. So what I mean by that is, okay, so first we need to have a sample from the decedent. Some of the samples are difficult to test. In fact, the lab is actively testing about 12 difficult samples right this moment. We're probably going to send them 2 more today, or two more in the near future. So then once we have the decedent sample, we check for the different alleles and make sure we have a match. So those will be the different categories of DNA that we'll check for. It's not a 23andMe. It won't show what kind of person it is. It's basically just a match of different markers in their DNA. Then we have to have the family reference sample to compare it to, because without a family reference sample, we can't compare it to anything, and it just sits there. So if we have somebody who does not have family, or family doesn't come forward, having the DNA sample from the decedent alone will not give us an identification, and there's no other data.
Yes, and I believe it's the Lacome Life. I teach, so I went back to work last week. So I am very much missing doing my lives and my updates. So I'm counting down the days until our first day off, which isn't until October.
Database for us to go to get DNA from, not 23andMe or anything else at this time. And it becomes very, very difficult. So we do need families to come forward and provide DNA samples, especially if they have not received, if they still have an unaccounted for relative and they still are struggling to find that person.
So TASI facial recognition won't be possible because they are ash remains, bone fragment remains.
They need to step forward and give us a DNA sample if they haven't. And it needs to be direct blood relative. And the closer they are related, the better the sample will be, because the more overlay of DNA there is. You know, a third cousin is not as related to a brother, sister, mother, father. So that's kind of where we are with that, if that answers some of your question.
I think it does, and then I guess people would ask, okay, out of your 31 reports, have all 31 given you a DNA sample, or are you still needing to get that from those family members?
Yeah, please jump in.
Yeah, let me just add a couple of more things of why, you know, for example, the number, we have more remains that we're telling you than we have profiles. One of the reasons is because we determine the number of remains anatomically, and then we take DNA samples, send them to the DNA lab, they return back a result, and those results collectively tell you how many unique profiles you have. So that's kind of the process. But we're also making some identifications dentally.
Yep.
We have dentists working in there 7 days a week. And if we make a dental identification and we didn't have a DNA family reference, it's okay. That identification gets made by the doctor and we move on. So we may not end up getting all of those family reference samples, and we may not need all of them, but if there's somebody still on that list of 31, and their family has not contributed a sample, then I would consider it urgent, very urgent for them to provide that sample.
Absolutely.
You know, and the DNA question, I mean, you know, the questions today really are very good. 199 family members have provided DNA. And so of that, we've made 74 identifications. There is a little bit of protection that I can't give you. Some of that I have to respect it, because none of this DNA is being used for any reason other than this particular identification. We're not entering it in any criminal database. We can't do anything with it other than match for this specific incident. If, just like the doctors have said, if you have a loved one and we have not made a notification as many immediate blood family members that can provide that DNA, they need to do so because it will help tremendously. And that's really what we want, you know. And so I would tell you that the number that you saw and what Dr. Bird was referencing is you have 95 unique profiles we've identified. We have 12 others out there. Those could be 12 new ones, but they also could be replications of the 95. And so I'm showing you as transparently as the purpose of this was not to confuse anybody, but was to show transparently, this is exactly what we've got. We're laying it all on the table for you. We've got 74 that we've identified, 31. And so you can do the math and figure that number out. We've got 95 plus 12, and it could be as high as that much, but they could be duplicates because we sent a femur and we already have the other person identified, and we didn't know we had a femur of that person because you can't figure it out. So we're giving you a couple different metrics here to see what this picture is. And so if you want to say, well, 74 plus 31, or you want to say 12 plus 95, but I didn't do that purposely because I'm not going to tell you that's what the actual number is. I'm just trying to give you all the data and let you guys digest it and report it as appropriately as you can. I hope that helps.
KTV4? Oh, Hawaii News Now, good. Associated Press.
Hi, sorry. So, you know, people are going to be like, what? It was 115 and now it's 97. I just want to be extra clear when we're explaining this to the world, right? Like, okay, so part of the reason was because, you know, they might have had like a DNA sample and remains. And for some people, you had both. For some people, you didn't have both. And so you guys had to kind of like, there was some commingling going on. So you had to kind of separate that out. And then, but then for the 95 that you have profiles for, does that mean there's 2 that you just don't have anything for, or there's the 12 factors into that somehow? And then the medical examiner, are you the medical examiner for Maui? Because I thought Maui is coroner through the police chief. Yes. So Maui has a medical examiner.
Okay, so I'm going to summarize the easiest part of your question, which is who is the coroner versus who is the medical examiner, and then clarification on the numbers one more time as far as the DNA sampling and profiles, correct?
And why there's, you know, to just explain why we were at 115 and now.
Okay, and how we went from 115 to 97. Okay, correct.
Thank you.
So the office of the chief of police for this county, as well as the other neighbor island counties, is also the coroner. I'm not a medical examiner. I'm not a doctor. And so I am lucky that I was able to hire the best in the business, and we lured him over here. And so that's who does the medical exams. And before we had them, we shared a few with some of the other neighbor islands, and they're the ones that did the different autopsies and things like that. I will let them answer some of the DNA questions because they're far better at that. So I'm going to go ahead and do that.
Yeah, so this lower number that we're arriving at is actually a number that you know, it's good news to have a lower number, that's for darn sure. But with the different profiles and other samples that are out there, there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of things that we're reunifying. And so as we work the cases and work the numbers and work the samples, things are coalescing into lower numbers. So it's hard to explain because there's many steps along the way and many different processes to get to these numbers. So it's not, you know, it's like a very complex equation to get to where we are. Yeah, if you can explain it better, it's super complex.
This is not unlike the kind of work we do in our POW MIA mission, where estimating numbers of people that have come into the morgue or to the laboratory for analysis is oftentimes very difficult at first. And then as you do more and more examination, more and more testing, it becomes more and more clear until eventually you settle on the exact right number. I would say we are not at the place where we are settling on the exact right final number. We're not there yet. And some of the complexities involved have to do with the fact that you had many different entities here all helping. and collecting and recovering remains from down in the scenes in Lahaina. But different entities might come through, collect remains at different times. They label the bags the way that they label the bags. So you have bags coming into the morgue with different kinds of labels on them. And initially, what our anthropologists do is we look at body bags that come in, and we do an initial inventory, and we assess how many people are represented there. And when you do the first tally of all those that have come in, the number tends to be too high, because as you begin to do more analysis and examination, you realize that actually you got two bags that were the same person, or you have two bags that were the same two people, but you didn't realize that until you did the work to analyze specifically what you have. And you often get the DNA results back, and the DNA results also inform the process. So I think it is normal and natural that the number starts out a little bit too high on the morgue side, and then eventually settles until at some point it's going to be a final accurate number. But I would say we're not quite there yet.
Yes, and even with what we've received, in addition to human, we've actually even received non-human remains along the way that we've had to make sure that they are in fact non-human. And it's been about 16 cases that were non-human, mixed in with the other people who have come through. So there's lots and lots of moving bits of information in this situation. It is a mass disaster.
Well, thank you all for coming. Everyone have a safe weekend. Thank you.
Well, that was Maui Police Chief John Pelletier, along with several other officials working on the recovery efforts for the Maui fire. And he did provide an update with the official unaccounted for list. And so far, several numbers were updated. 31, that is now the official amount of people who are on that unaccounted for list. It's a major drop from the original number, which was in the thousands. He also mentioned 97 is the amount of people that have passed in the Lahaina. 74 individuals who have perished have been identified. And he also says that an additional 31 need to be ID'd. We also heard about the recovery efforts. Another number was 199. That's the different recoveries that have been conducted so far. That was according to the medical examiner. Now, this is a painstaking process that they mentioned for officials to reunify the remains and then accurately identify them. We also heard from the Department of Defense. They have been supporting the search and recovery efforts and having to follow the leads when it comes to missing persons reports. They emphasize that providing any and all information of the person is critical when it comes to their search. Now, we are going to have a full recap of this information. It's going to be on KITV4 Island News at 4. But for now, we return you to your regularly.
Okay, so. Oh, stop it. All right. Yes, it's 55. It's supposed to get down to 49 tonight, I believe. Stark difference from 90 degrees last week. Yes, the low tonight is supposed to be 49. Perfect sleeping weather. So thank you everyone for being here. And I decided, well, actually Bash twisted my arm. I was like, do you think I should go live for a little bit after this live? Because we were kind of all chatting about non-Maui things, and now we're talking about apple cider donuts. Again, my fault. But we have tons of apple orchards around where I am, and we also have a lot of Amish. And the one thing I miss the most about a school that I had worked at years ago was on the way, I would pass an Amish bakery stand. And every fall they would make homemade donuts. They were like eating a cloud. They were so freaking good. And I miss getting those. So whenever fall comes around, the apple cider donuts, I mean, they're so good. So, yes, it's going to be really nice. So I think I will go live for just a little bit. So I'm going to say 9:30. And I will also share on my community page just in case I'm not going to give you the 30-minute notice. But I figured that way we can just talk about random stuff. And yeah, so if I don't see you momentarily, I will be live tomorrow at some point where I will be talking about the earthquake in Morocco and the catastrophic flooding in Libya. So I know it's 9:10 p.m. So I'm going to go live at 9:30. But normally I try to do 30 minutes blank screen because then everyone gets like the 30-minute notice. But then again, I change my time all the time. So, I mean, who knows if I'll be on time in 20 minutes. Anyways, if I don't see you, have a great night. And until next time, I will see you all on the flip side.